Hello, world, and welcome back to the Kaleidospoke podcast. Myself, Richie Rich, alongside the one and only
Aaron.
I thought you forgot your name.
Happens sometimes.
I hope you guys are still well, enjoying 2021. We launched a 4-part series bonus episode for 2021, especially for you. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out. Don't forget to follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Instagram. We're on there. I hope you're good. How you doing?
Bro, I'm good, man. Again, happy to be in 2021. And before we start, I want to make a dedication to somebody. You know, this person's a good friend of mine, a great father, amazing inspiration. And that's you, bro. It's your birthday today.
Oh wow, thank you very much.
That's all right, man. That's all right. I appreciate you.
I thought it was gonna be a dad or someone.
No. Yeah, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this 1 year down, another, who knows to go. So yeah, more grace, more wisdom.
Something like that.
Today, we're gonna go through this is a normal episode, so no bonuses, but this is gonna be packed with philosophical debate and conversing on important topics that I think everyone wonders about. And if you never wondered about these topics, then you should probably start thinking about them. So the first on note is psychedelics. Now, some of you may not be fans of psychedelics, and when we talk about it, might pique some people's interest, or some people might just stop listening at this point in time, and that's fair enough. Goodbye. But we but no, it's an interesting topic that we've spoken about many times before, and it's one which interests us because we're explorers of the mind, explorers of the world, and it's getting mainstream. It's getting mainstream, and it's kind of polarizing. Some people don't like the thought of it. Some people do. And yeah, I think let's talk about it. Which side are you on?
I mean, I think it's a great subject to talk about because it is a polarizing one. Sorry, the wine is at the back of my throat. It is, and I think as an explorer of thought and human behavior, I'm not opposed to anything that kind of exhibits that. Not to say for myself taking it, but at least having more information on how it works and what it can do for people. So, I'm pro psychedelics for sure, and many things I don't have a solid stance on, but this one is quite solid. I'm pro. It's I think it's become more accepted and legalized in certain places. I think Oregon, they legalized it at the end of last year, and so
right.
you're kind of getting, with mushrooms, you're getting that kind of boom that we saw when weed became legal in California, and then everything started to happen. But I think with the legalization, there's more focus on the scientific benefits, the medical use for these things, and so far the results seem quite positive.
Yeah. I mean, and this goes back to like the 50s. I think the 50s and 60s was a period of where I think in America they were using MDMA, for example, as like this psychedelic therapy sort of administration, right? And I think particularly it was for PTSD, to treat PTSD, and that's when they started like sort of playing with it in the lab and having these controlled tests. And of course, fast forward 60 years was it's some part of medication and prescriptions are psychotherapeutic or therapeutic, if I can say the word properly, based. where you're getting a lot of papers as you mentioned where psilocybin is an effective drug for curing depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a similar tip with LSD, mushrooms, and MDMA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as you kind of said, there's a whole like recreational use, which is another an element which is not controlled, not prescribed over the counter, but yet it's still beneficial for people because there are these like rituals where people go to and for mushrooms and those kind of things where they have this sort of this spiritual journey or this like opening of the mind, and it allows them to deal with things and so forth to help them get out their emotions and explore within. And I think there's a lot of merit to this stuff, and there's a lot of um, like positive contributing factors that and benefits that can come from exploring a space and legalizing it and actually just you know um, just giving it a go.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm inclined to agree with you, man. I think it was Ronald Reagan who initiated the war on drugs, right? I think in his term
Mm,
that's what happened, right?
I think so.
And that's kind of been, it put a halt on truly kind of exploring the benefits of many drugs, not just psychedelics. And now that it seems as if the war on drugs is beginning to come to a close, you know, you know, more I'd say more regular people are taking these things and seeing the results, and then it's kind of demystifying all of the propaganda around it because people are having like a primary first-hand experience with these things and coming back with experience. Yeah, they're coming back with experiences that are positive. So I,
Mm,
I think as time goes on, and we're already seeing, once things get legal in America, it starts to happen around the world. And as
mm,
time goes on, and you have people that kind of propel the movement as well, like our leader Joe Rogan, you know, they these things become more mainstream, and the understanding of the substances themselves, um, it grows. And the psychedelic realm, there's quite a number of substances. I'll go for a couple. So, just in case. um, so you got your psilocybin mushrooms, you've got your LSD, you've got a ton of kind of natural plants that give off this kind of hallucinogenic energy. So, you've got mescaline and peyote and ayahuasca, and those last three in particular, they've been used in certain cultures for millennia now, um
mm,
so now that these types of experiences are kind of marketed to the regular person, we're all starting to see that these things shouldn't be shunned. These things are there to explore under supervision. And
mm,
I think it's really important to understand that we all got different psychological makeups and different drives psychologically. So I think
mm,
once you get to grips with, how that works for you, then,
mm.
the idea of maybe seeing in a controlled environment, seeing how some of these substances can improve your life, I think that's a good train of thought, in my opinion.
And I think also, like, if you go back, right? I mean, you said Ronald Reagan put a war on drugs, and that was like the 50s, 60s. So in our lifetime, well, not in our lifetime, but in our sort of, in our recent history.
Mm,
But if you go way back, right, for things like that are grown from the ground, like mushrooms, that has psilocybin in, you know, this is I think there's quite a lot of research and quite a lot of agreement around this. Like mushrooms have been around for a long time,
mm,
in Africa and South America. And if you just think back to the Aztec times or the was it Machu Picchu, um, kind of
The
that
Mayans.
sort of period there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The Mayans.
Yeah.
You know, this was kind of seen as like the food of gods. Like it's hallucinogenic. They had like tribal rituals around it, um, and for all intents and purposes, these people were probably more enlightened than we are now. One could argue because you know, and also when you look at all these archaeologists and we've discovered all these underground worlds like that are undersea and how the pyramids were built, there's an argument to say, we weren't dumb back then. We were actually as a species, we were very very advanced,
Mhm.
and for some reason the advancement seems to have stalled, or it's gone a different road. But I definitely think that the same way coffee beans kind of ignited the I think it's the 1600s or 1700s when people started stop drinking beer as like water,
Mm.
and then started drinking coffee as like the drink of the day. Then the world started getting a bit more productive. Um, Having sort of psychedelics in your system as like maybe if it's a day on day thing or quite regularly, definitely I feel open up the mind to the point where there is like this consciousness that we probably a lot of people should have, and I think it's a great thing that people that's why people when they experience it, they have this sort of like aha moment, this epiphany, because it's not you're not just in the day-to-day 9 to 5 rigmarole rat race. You've escaped into this world of you know I don't know, enlightenment, wherever it may be, wherever it takes them. I think that's just an interesting world and space to explore that don't know why the government and people are scared of, but
I mean, I could answer why the government and the establishment and the system is probably anti these types of drugs. It's because once people connect to elements of spirituality, elements of consciousness, then the idea of materialism starts to fade away. And our system is built on materialism and greed. So,
true.
I think there's a strong interest in keeping um, these tools effectively to connect to a different power away from the regular person, because the regular person needs to go to work so that the system can work. So I can
Mm,
I can I can see the connection as to why these things have remained illegal, and still in our country it's not legal. Um,
mm,
so I can totally understand, and I think over this podcast in particular, because we're discussing a couple of profound things, you know, um, the idea that we're just here to, go to work, make a baby, then die. I think most of us feel, not know, feel as if there's a bit more, and I've had some experiences with psychedelics, and honestly, in those experiences, I can genuinely feel as if there's more than what I'm just seeing. Do you know what I mean? There's
mm,
there's a
mm,
bit more. You're connected to something that is not quite visible in your day-to-day life. And I guess once you feel it once, you start to recognize it, even when you're sober and whatever. You start to recognize it and its value in
mm,
your day-to-day life. So again, pro psychedelics for sure. I think a lot of people could use it, and I think what's really, 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 really interesting is dosage management. You know, um,
mm,
because the dosage management also produces different effects. And um, I'm personally a huge fan of microdosing psilocybin. I've not microdosed anything else. I'm a huge fan of it, just because of the effect. It's anytime I've said to somebody, "Yeah, I'm microdosing mushrooms," they look at me a little bit weird. And
mm,
and they say, "What does it do?" I said, "I don't get any like hallucinations or anything. I just got super clear thought. Memory recall is good. Um, I feel I feel as if my cognitive behavior is a lot more clear, than
mm,
if I didn't do it. So I think over time, as this field unfortunately gets monetized, um, we'll start to see products that come out that can, shape the effect on people, and then we'll see which people adopt these products into their kind of diet and which people don't, and then you can make the comparison. So I'm excited about this becoming mainstream, and I think it will. Cannabis has done it in the States in particular, but in other parts around the world. And um, my thoughts on the idea that any drug should be illegal. I'm not. I'm. We've seen it hasn't worked since the war on drugs. We've seen it doesn't work. People take these things regardless, and I think the sovereignty of any person should be in the things that they put into their body. I don't see how the law gets involved with that. There's already a law. If you put certain drugs into your body, then commit a crime, you'll be punished for the crime. Like the idea that putting the drug inside yourself is the crime, that's wild to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the you know it's kind of destructive, right? Like if you think of like the other like negative kind of drugs like heroin, and if it's at a price or at people, it's easily accessed. An argument like you could argue that there is not say that taking it is a crime, but it's a crime obviously to sell,
Mm,
right? To allow this black market. So I can see that those type of drugs where they're seen to be destructive, but the drugs where like psilocybin, like LSD, where it's not as addictive,
mhm,
it doesn't have that addictive sort of real grab on you, then there's an argument to say, well, what's the if it's not destructive to the economy, the society in such a bad way or such a drastic way, then why make it illegal?
mhm,
And to your point, I mean, about microdosing is a very, very common and popular thing with a lot of sort of like office people, corporate people, like Steve Jobs, for example. He was known to have taken LSD, um, and many people in Silicon Valley have been and spoken out about microdosing, um, mushrooms, psilocybin, and LSD, um, and it's kind of like this like limitless pill.
mm,
The, and it kind of, as you mentioned, you have good clarity of thought, good memory recall, and general cognition is improving, and those results are coming out in the lab or in these sort of papers and research papers as well.
mhm,
So you know there's a lot of positive things, which I can't say for like the likes of heroin and those kind of hard drugs.
mhm.
um but I feel like, yeah, it's over time, depending on who the world leadership will be, this stuff should just eventually come into our um into people's hands and use that at your discretion.
Sure, sure. Well, anyway, as the world is getting more connected, these things are coming into people's hands anyway, which makes the case for um, criminalizing these drugs even more absurd. You know,
Mm,
the world is getting more and more connected. You could probably go on a Telegram group and find whatever drug you want, or go on the dark web and order it to your house, and some DHL person will bring it to you. You know, so I think there's certain places in the world. I know Portugal has decriminalized all drugs. I think Oregon in the States has decriminalized all drugs. That understand that actually this is probably better if we get a handle on this, and then we could start to remove some of the power from undesirable people, drug dealers, the black market, and then start making money on it themselves. And I think, to your point about heroin and crack, or the kind of hard drugs, and I know this is not our conversation really, but it's, again, people are going to take this stuff anyway, and there has been shown clearly how much those types of drugs destroy societies. But I still believe that a man or a woman should have the freedom to put whatever they want into their body. You know, I don't think criminalizing these drugs is going to stop people taking it, and therefore the effect of taking it, you know, destroying society. I think people should be. I think there's just should be another approach. Basically, we've seen that this approach hasn't worked over 50 years, so there should be another approach. And there are countries that are taking other approaches with positive results. So,
Mm.
you know, I think it's worth acknowledging that. And but you know, I'm not a government. You know, I'm just a guy, and and I could truly understand why a government would keep all of the drugs illegal, because
Mm.
if it allows people to venture out of the thought that they are just pawns in a system, then you know the system changes, and people that are at the top of the system do not want that. So
Mm.
I can understand the reasoning.
Start getting revolts, and people like start thinking, "What's life's purpose? Why am I here? Why am I listening to the government?"
Well, look, in all seriousness, you know, this COVID thing, right, has brought out a ton of, you know, new business people, you know, with their creative skills. There's a good chance that they all might be doing some, you know, some psychedelics in the background. You know, there's you can have imagine having all of these businesses, everyone's self-employed. You know, why what at what point are we then looking to the government to be like, well, you know, we kind of need you for this? They're like, no, my customer is over there and he's actually a supplier as well. And actually we're just working this all out. You know, it doesn't spell good for the purpose of um or some purposes of like an overarching government, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I think if we didn't have these sort of like mind-opening psychedelics, then the greats like I don't know, Ray Charles, Amy Winehouse,
Yeah,
um, all these sort of like creatives.
yeah.
There's a correlation between like how seems to be correlation between how creative you are and this like opening of the mind and um, using these kind of like psychedelics.
Yeah, like you can see art is synonymous with drugs. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
They all,
mm.
you know, almost every artist that you can think of, I imagine, has dabbled, if not super dabbling, all the way in their nose, in their eyes, everywhere. And sometimes unfortunately lose their life because of the dabble. But yeah, it's synonymous with that. And there's something about it, bro. There's something about us and a connection to a deeper level of consciousness or some type of spirituality that is this yearning question in many of us, not all of us, in many of us. It's like, okay, what
Mm,
else is there? You know, what is beyond this? You know,
mm, mm.
and I know we're going to explore it in the next subject. You know, what's beyond. But I think honestly, and this is my true honest opinion, in doing my own primary research, I honestly believe psychedelics open a window to that.
Boom,
Boom.
mic drop. Okay, all right. On that fine note, we will move on to something that you just touched on, which is death and beyond. What is your life purpose?
Ooh, you know I like this podcast. This one in particular, I like the podcast because it's cool. It's two cool people anyway. But you know what I like about this podcast? We're just talking about the life shit. Do you know what I mean? Like the thing, the deep shit. You know? Yeah. Sorry. Carry on, bro.
No, yeah. I mean, keep going. I mean, basically, this is a question about, what life after death.
Mm,
Where are we going? What is, and then what is life purpose? I mean, if you kind of, this is bringing it back to essentially life's meaning, right?
mm,
Why are people here? Everyone, I feel like in life, there's many truths. There's no one truth. Like your opinion and my opinion, two different things. But whatever's true to you is true to you. Whatever's true to me is true to me. So there's no wrong or right. And so, you know, if I think that it's a nice thought to think that there is an afterworld, there is a place, and it is called, it is of abundance. It is like this kind of how we see it in the movies, right? Like
What are we talking about?
why?
Hell or heaven?
Well, both.
Okay.
But I'm thinking more heaven. I mean, I'm trying to go. I'm trying to go there. If there's a place, I'm going. but, but but yeah, I mean that beyond life, it's kind of, it's hard to, it's a hard pill to swallow to think that we're just here for 20 years, 30 years. If we're lucky enough to live that long, 5 years, and then that's it. Lights out, move on,
Mm.
or life moves on. Not you don't move on, you stay. You're no longer existing, but life, Earth, space, time moves on. That's a hard pill to swallow because if it's a reality, it's kind of somber. But on the other hand, you've got this other story where that's not it. That's not just the end. There is another beginning, which is like, the afterlife, where everything is like everything smells like roses. And
Mm.
and that's not to say that it's not true, but it's just it's a story, and it's there's kind of there's two sides to the story. There's many truths. So I haven't experienced it, so I can't say categorically what is beyond death.
Sure.
But a lot of it's down to hope and belief,
Part
in my
of
opinion.
if you'd experienced it and then still talking to me now, I'd be wondering what the hell is going on in my life. There was a quote that I put on that was on our Instagram page, and it says, what happens after you die? And the answer says lots of things happen after you die. They just don't involve you, you know? And and I think, at least in my opinion, that's the way I see things. It's like, you know, uh, death is the balance to life, which makes life even more important. So
Mm,
the idea of the second place for me, and this is me personally, I'm not a religious person. The idea of the second place is quite irrelevant to me, because I'm here in the first place, you know, and I've got
mm,
more than enough to concern myself with, in a great way, um,
mm,
in this place here, So I don't truly concern myself with, what's next. I mean, I could have the philosophical debate as to what could be next. I mean, I think Richard Dawkins, and he is a stern atheist. He said,
stir.
I'm stern, like this guy, stern. I think I think he was on the Joe Rogan show, and he said something along the lines of, if there was a heaven, right, and you end up there for eternity, isn't that kind of a hell? Because who wants to be in one place eternally forever and ever? Maybe a couple hundred years, 2, 3, but the idea that you cannot escape this place and you're there forever, even if it's
Mm,
filled with milk and honey, you might get bored of milk
mm,
and honey.
mm,
You might want some wine, and then
mm,
you've got, you know, in some in some religions, and I try not to mock it, but you might get 40 wives, or 40 virgins or whatever. And you might want somebody who's a bit more experienced, after a couple hundred years. You might want someone who's been around the block a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Imagine that. Imagine that. So, like, someone passes, a man passes, and then he's married, happily married,
Mm,
and in heaven, he's fine. He's waiting for his other half.
mm.
But little does everybody know that this other half he's wanted to get away from for ages.
Yes.
And so soon after, her, the partner, wife passes, goes up to heaven, says, "Honey, I'm here." He's like, "Oh, goddamn,
His whole heaven's just been fucked up. Do you know what I mean? So,
eternity."
oh man, but I do think that I think it's a scientific um, philosophy in physics that energy is never lost; it's only transferred. So I think there is an idea
Right.
that even if your body dies, something about the energy of you gets transferred to another place. Now that transferal could be just to the ground, in which then, you know, grass sprouts and trees sprout, and then life continues, you know. And I think I think sometimes, you know, I laugh at our species sometimes. You know, I know I'm a human, but I refer to us as our species like I'm outside of it. You know, and the reason I laugh is because sometimes we really think we know something. Do you know what I mean? We really, really, really believe that we actually know anything. You know, so you know somebody's created this idea of heaven and hell, and you know, and God and all this thing, and now that is somewhere in some people's mind a fact. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
That seems quite grandiose to me. You know, you
mm,
must see yourself or our species as this kind of, I don't know, all knowing, all being thing. And
yeah.
I don't see it like that. I kind of think we're all quite small. And in terms of, you know, life as a whole, we almost don't exist. You know, we're that minuscule. And
Mm,
I think the only one certain thing in life is that we die. That's one guarantee. That's the only one thing I truly know. You know, I don't know if I'm talking to you right now or this is just a computer program. I don't know. You know, I don't know if my son is really my son. He might just be a computer program. I don't know. But what I do know is that I will die, and I also know or also believe that I am here. You know, even if you know it's a fictitious rendition of life, I'm still here experiencing this. And to me, that is beauty enough. You know, after I die, I don't necessarily believe it's going to get more beautiful than it is now. This is beautiful enough, you know.
mm, mm,
This is great, you know, like every day amazing things are happening um in the world, in the universe, with people that I know, with experiences that I see, feelings that I feel, you know, feelings that other people feel, you know, and I think to the second part of the whole kind of topic about life purpose, it helps then death, in my opinion, helps should help or could help you understand your purpose in the sense that your purpose is to live. You're
mm,
here now,
mm.
live, you know,
YOLO,
yeah,
YOLO.
live. YOLO. I mean, you know, at least here, YOLO. You know, so
Yeah, I think I think you touched on a good few things there, and you know, it's kind of like saying that I like is all I know is that I know nothing
Mm,
in a way. You know, like um, for someone to know categorically that something is true is could be seen and as um, naive
mm,
or ignorant. But you know, as I say, everyone has their own truth, and you know, I think perhaps it's because I like to stay on the 51-49% kind of spectrum
mhm,
that um, you know, think things. It's a nice thought, but unless I've experienced it, I don't know. And as you mentioned, I know that I'm experiencing. Well, I feel like I know that I'm experiencing this right now. I feel like I have control of what I'm doing, my body and my you know my mind um, to a certain degree. So for that, I'm grateful, and I appreciate every day that I wake up and you know I can smell the coffee and hear the birds. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? So as you kind of said, it, it may not necessarily matter where we're going, but enjoy the journey we're on,
mm.
and with every breath, every sort of smell, um, every moment, and you know just to be thankful for that, like whether or not we'll go into heaven or hell is a byproduct of how you live. So if you live right, and if that's how you want to that's how you want to live, then you know you don't need to worry. But
Yeah.
then again, and then on the other part of the question, what's life purpose, you know, uh, part of my sort of feeling of purpose is and it's weird when you mentioned about we are small in this in the big scheme of things. We are literally, if you zoom out, I think there's like people have even cited this, like we're essentially like parasites on Earth.
Mm,
like if you zoom out,
Mm.
like to the point of like looking from Jupiter or somewhere, we're like just parasites. We're just running around,
Yeah.
and okay, you can have an impact on on life, on us, our species, and life on Earth, but we're here and experience and enjoy you as a surviving, breathing organism,
Yep.
and and move on.
Mm.
Of course, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting how you mentioned, that we could be viewed as like parasites on this planet. I think, and this has been cited many times. There's this, I'm going to say fact in inverted commas because I don't know how this got counted, but apparently there's more stars in the sky than there are grains of sand on this Earth. And given that our whole solar system, how many planets are in our solar system? 7, 8, something like that.
I lost count.
Yeah. Anyway, we we our whole energy source is from one star. So to think how many billion trillion of planets there are, you know, um, and this is life. This is all life. Even a star is life, So this is all life. To then
Mm,
think, your life in the scheme of life is very important. I don't think it is that important. However, this is the big however. My world, what I see through my eyes, is the world that matters to me. It doesn't have to matter
mm,
to life as a whole, but it's the one that
mm,
matters to me. So it's important
mm.
to me, but again, like sometimes zooming out at times, which sometimes psychedelics helps. Um, Zooming out at times allows you to get that perspective. Like, your world is important to you, but there is a big world and you're not that important. And it kind of humbles you as well. And it kind of, for me at least, it gives me hope that actually, there is other things out there that are pretty cool that if in my entire existence, whether it goes beyond this world or whatever, I'd hope to maybe experience some other stuff, you know,
Mm,
or maybe even
mm,
in this time, and I have already. But in this time, I'd be quite happy to experience some things, and to life purpose. I think if I was to simplify now what some things in life purpose are for me, and I'm only saying for me because this is different for everyone. There's 7 billion worlds happening at the same time. We're all having our own world. But for me, I think my primary purpose here is to reproduce, which I've done. I've completed that. that I completed that task. Man's done. I've done the whole world, fam. but then after that, it's almost kind of like living my life to honor those that came before me and living my life to inspire the ones that came after me, or that come after me. And I think,
mm,
if I can do that well, effectively, then I'm living out my purpose in life. Everything else is I'm not sure, but those things, reproducing, inspiring and honoring, I think
mm,
that's for me, that's enough purpose. That's good purpose. That will keep me going for the rest of my life, I think.
mm, and everyone has their own, life purpose. And it's just it's all subjective to you and your experience and how your outlook on life and what makes us who we are. We can't all be the same, and if we all were, it would just be boring.
Mm,
But I guess to that point of like life purpose, it kind of ties nicely with sort of our final topic on rules of life.
mm,
You know, you kind of mentioned that one of your things is to reproduce and you know and teach essentially to the people who are following after you, whether that's your offspring or your circle of influence, the world, whatever. And I think sort of like rules of life is like a nice sort of principled way of looking at it. Like, what are your rules of life? Do you are you sort of highly? Do you have high integrity? What do you think that you want to be a charitable person more, or is life just a game, and you're just playing to win?
mm,
Like there's different rules. Everyone's. as you kind of mentioned, there's 7 billion worlds and there's 7 billion games and journeys being played. Like, I like to think life is a kind of game
Mm,
and a journey, right? So people can play many different games. The game of religiosity, the game of corporate and capitalism, the game of giving. Like, and not to say there's only one game. You know, perhaps you have a balance within that, but it kind of goes down to the drivers of ourselves, like what's driving you as an individual. Um, you know, perhaps it's to you know just be happy and live in the now. Perhaps it's to build a better future for you and your family. Um, there's different strings, different strokes for different folks, as we say.
mm.
Um, what are your rules of life? I'm interested.
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a few, but I think what you mentioned, maybe, you know, if you're going along the path of, taking it all and being number one capitalist, that still can exist with, being a giver as well. Like a lot of these rules kind of, when
It's
it
not
comes,
binary.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. When it comes to an individual, we all know that it's all malleable, we all change. And, we might be thinking one thing for one era of our life. And then, we move on, we learn some stuff, and we're like, actually, maybe that train of thought wasn't the right one, And you come in,
Mm,
you come into your 30s or your 40s, and you're like, I don't even like that person who I was in that last decade, you
that's
know.
it. That's it.
So
We change. We change.
we do. But I got a number of rules, man. I got a ton. I'll go through some of them. Some of them come from books. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll read out as many as I can. Um, I avoid bearing bad news. If I'm honest, I avoid it.
You avoid bad news.
No, I avoid bearing it. I avoid telling people bad news
Okay.
simply
Okay.
because
Is it?
simply because if you become the person who bears bad news all the time, that title gets attached to you. You know, um,
Mm,
when
mm.
people see you, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna tell us some bad news," and they start to avoid you because they know that some bad news comes with you. So I avoid it. I delegate. I delegate any bad news. I delegate to someone else and say, "You need to tell this person
Right.
that," because I don't. Yeah.
It's like if you're in the office, don't come with a problem. Come with a solution. Like,
100%.
you don't want to be the problem
Yeah.
guy.
Don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy.
Don't be,
Nobody.
yeah.
um,
Cool.
to forgive everybody. I forgive, that's one of the rules, and that one is an ongoing one. um I'm generally, I feel, at least I'm generally quite a forgiving person. I remember stuff, but I'm quite forgiving. I understand that we're all in this thing learning, and we're all feeling different things at different times. So I can forgive somebody, if they did me wrong, or if they did wrong, or I'm quite forgiving in that sense. So to forgive everybody is one. um I I only wish to enter situations where I add value. I don't really want to enter situations where I've got no real business being there. It, I feel anxious about that myself, and I think deep down everybody knows when there's somebody at the table who's not really doing anything. I'm not that guy.
So why are you here? What's your purpose?
Yeah, I don't like that question. That's not a question that I tend to frequent in my life. If I know that I can't add something here, I don't get involved. That's not my table.
It's the wrong table.
That's the wrong table, man. Um, Another one from a Disney movie. Um, I wish I showed my son, actually. And I showed my little sister when she was about 4. She's currently 17. It's from Meet the Robinsons, and it's so simple. Just keep moving forward, no matter what happens.
Keep going.
Keep moving forward. That is the goal.
Mhm.
We move forward. Things are bound to happen in life. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
Another one from my life changing book, 48 Laws of Power. Don't take anything personally. I do my best not to take anything personally. Anything, even if it's
Mm.
meant personally, I will find a way to tell myself it's not personal. Like, they're just feeling this in this way, and that's why they had to do that. It's not personal. I get it. You
Right,
know.
right, right. Yeah,
It,
because there's so many situations where you could really get yourself like just riled up because something's happened to you or someone says something in such a way, and and it's so true, because the other person could be going through a stressful day or a stressful time in their life, and it's every action is a reaction. It's not necessarily them, but it's the situation that they're in that's putting them in this mind state for them to react in such a way or come out with something. So it's true. It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, 100%. It's exactly what you just said. Others to smell good as much as I can.
Which so links, yeah, links effects,
No, are
and
you mad?
is that
Are you mad? Links and effects. No wonder what is man 14 or something. No, this is big man thing.
okay? Sure then, right, God.
I have, the deodorant is like a minor thing, but you have some ode fragrances going on. You might have the Aventus Creed, or you might just have like some, I don't know, some Invictus, something nice. So, when you walk past to somebody, they're like, what's that smell?
Right. Why is that? What's it? One thing. It's not ode. It's oud.
Whatever.
Just a
All
correction.
right, all right.
And the other thing, why is that important to you? The way you smell, just out of interest,
Because
and for people to say, oh, that guy smells nice.
it makes people want to smell me, and sometimes I want those people to smell me. Generally, if they're ladies.
Nice.
Oh man, yeah, I still got a couple.
Fine.
I still got a couple more. Like, bear with me, bro. Bear with me, because I wrote this down. I thought about it. So I was like, "What rules do you have?" And I sat there for not even that long, like 3 minutes, just writing them down. I was like, "Yeah, these are all your rules, 100%." Move light. That's one thing. Move light. Don't get attached to too many things, because then it slows you down. I move light when I'm moving house. Emotionally, I move light, but just because I like to move fast. I'm not a person that takes a long time because I've got all this stuff that I've got to carry and you've got to do 10 trips. I'm not that guy. I do one trip, we're done.
I feel so good when I throw stuff out, like
Mm.
in junk, because it just feels like a weight is gone and you feel lighter. And it's like this heavy baggage when you look around and you've got all this stuff. And my granddad was like one to collect everything under the sun. Just
Mm.
like he'll have 5 drills, 6 hammers, and 3 boxes of the same screws. Just because.
And then where does all the space go? Do you know what I mean? You got nowhere to move. it's,
So yeah,
it's
minimalistic life.
just be minimal. Another one, what people say about me, that's not my business, man. That's not my business. My business is focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. What people say about me, that's their business. That's not my business. I shouldn't get involved
Right.
in that business. You know?
So if you walk past them and they say you smell, then it's not your business.
If they said it to me, then I might make it my business. But if they said it amongst themselves, it shouldn't stop me going to the destination where I was going to before I heard that comment. Do you know what I mean?
Just checking, because you want people to smell you,
Yeah.
and I guess you want people to smell you and make sure that you smell sweet.
Yeah.
But then, if on the other hand, if you're conscious of that, and then they say you don't smell nice, not you don't care, it's fine, not your problem.
Remember the other rule: don't take it personally. I ain't taking it personally, bro.
Okay. Just checking.
Just checking.
Don't want contradicting rules. Don't want contradicting rules out here. That's
like we said, we're malleable, so some of these might contradict at some point. Do you know what I mean? This is the game. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. I got
That's
two.
okay.
I got 2 more, and then I'll let you have the floor because I know I've taken it up for a little bit. Understand the people that you're dealing with, and that's law number 19 in 48 Laws of Power. I know this law off by heart. I think it's really important to understand that when you have a certain type of individual in front of you, how to treat them and how to approach them. Because if you approach everybody the same, the results are almost start to, come outside of they come too far outside of your control, And I think that when you understand types of character, you also then start to be able to make better predictions as to how they will react under certain conditions. Now, of course,
Mm,
people are malleable. Some things are unpredictable, but I think you get better at predicting other people's behavior when you start to understand character types. You know, so
mm, mm,
knowing who you're dealing with, in my opinion, that's a strong life mantra. Just know who's in front of you and do your best to keep their reactions predictable, you know?
mm, mm.
Um, yeah. And the final one, bro, it could all be a simulation. All of this could just be a simulation, you know?
It's not real.
It all could just be fake.
Yeah.
So again,
I thought the same thing when I watched Matrix and Neo. Like I thought exactly the same thing. Ever since then, I've just tried to dodge bullets.
bro, it's the most eye-opening movie of pretty much my life. It could just all be a simulation. And if it is, it don't matter. There's no need to get caught up on one single subject, like, however dire things might seem, you know, if it's not real, then it doesn't really matter, you know? So
Yeah.
so yeah, and those are my rules to life. And I have a few, I guess.
I think there's good rules, and I think it's important to try to reflect on what you stand for and rules in general and principles, right? Essentially, they help you. And it's not to say that you always repeat them and you always know them off by heart, but just generally what resonates to you and how you want to carry yourself in life, and just gives you a little bit of some guardrails on things. So I think it's good.
Mm,
I think it's good.
What
I like
about what
yours.
about you?
Um, I've got a few, and I don't know where these have come from. I think they've come just from inspired on from other people's rules. Like there's a good book by Ray Dalio, which like he's a hedge fund. He runs a hedge fund, and he's just a very thoughtful and pensive person. And I think I read part of his principles book, and I think some have come from his. Because I think for me, sometimes when when it's said in a great way and it resonates with me, it's like, okay, that's kind of how I'm thinking, and it's put in such a way where it it's a model for me. So one of them is, and not all of these are from that. I'm just saying, some of them. That's one place where I remember I've got inspiration from. But one is always keep a balance. So with things, I try not to go too right and too left. Like try to not to be. If something's really bad, try to look and kind of get yourself to the center as quickly as possible. Um, if something's, but then the other thing is when something's really funny, I'm like, okay, that's funny. It's funny, but not like over the top.
Mm,
so, so, so always trying to kind of stay in the middle, which is just one trait that I've noticed of myself. Um, maintain an attitude of gratitude. So it kind of goes back to our conversation earlier of like just appreciating that we're living what we have. Don't ever think. Try to not get lost in it's not enough. Like I enjoy the journey of trying to achieve and trying to attain, but it for me it's like a game. Like it's just a game of like you're choosing different tables to play at, and it's just a challenge to play and participate. So I'm participating in life right now. Like I've like hopefully many good years. I've had many good years, and I've hopefully many good years to come of enjoying this game of life. And so just maintain it, and I'm grateful for that. So maintain an attitude of gratitude. Um, always ask, like, is it true? Does it make sense? Like,
mm,
question the status quo, and be open for that debate. Like, and it goes back again to like, all I know is I know nothing. Just and check and check and then verify, or verify then check, or
it's the
something like
same. It's the same.
that.
I like that. I
um,
like that one because it really kind of like inspires critical thinking. Like you hear something and you're like, I'm not sure. And then,
Mm.
with that idea that you have the ability to question and you should question, I like that. I like that thought.
Yeah. I think it just keeps the mind curious, and it goes to one of the things like life learning. You're always learning, right? And I think that criticality, that sort of crucial, that exploration of thought and that curiosity ties well with that. Um, Another one is reflect but don't dwell on pain. So um, you know, pain is always going to come in many shapes and form, and you know, it's a case of getting through it. Like, I think I got this from maybe a Buddhist book that I picked up from like Thailand when I was out there. But in Buddhism, it very much talks about pain and how to deal with it, and just like how it's just a motion of life. And so yeah, whenever there's sort of adversity and times of adversity, try to like just get through it. Like, it's just reflect on it, learn from it, and move on. I'm very much a person of like just move on and continue. Um, so yeah, and I've got a few more, but one thing that one quote I really like, and I just kind of saw in my notebook from I think a few years ago, is like, some people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75. I
Mm.
think that's Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
And so it's like, always keep that dream alive. Like, just never stop dreaming and trying. Um, don't let the dreams die. Do you know what I mean? And always keep trying. I think that again goes back to the point of like, life is a journey, and whatever your dream is, just keep going for it, and never stop dreaming big, and having regrets at like on the deathbed.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, mine are like pretty deep, I feel, but
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, there's like nice rules that I like to look at every now and then.
Look, man, I think it tells in your behavior and your actions that, it's not happening by an accident. Do you know what I mean? It's not just like walking through life, kind of head in the clouds. Oh, I'm stumbling onto stuff. No, it's more like
Mm,
there is some type of kind of method to the madness, right? Um,
yeah,
yeah, and
I think so.
yeah, we all like to think so. Maybe we're all just mad. um, it was funny about the last one you said about kind of keeping the dream alive, because I saw something on Instagram the other day which was kind of funny. Um, Talking about Monopoly, and I'm sure you play Monopoly. Everyone's played Monopoly.
Love that game.
I love that game too. I love that game. I all like, the kind of rules in my Monopoly. You can negotiate anything. Anything's negotiable. But I saw this thing on Instagram, and it said, imagine you're playing a game of Monopoly, and you're just like going around the board to collect your £200 every time you pass go. Some people,
Mm,
most people, live their whole life like that. They're not buying anything
right.
on the board. They're just going to collect their £200. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
so many people are just, doing that same thing. Some people want to do it. If some people want to do it and that's their dream and goal, then that's great. But
Mm,
some people literally are just existing.
mm,
They just exist. you know, um, and I wouldn't consider myself one of those people. And I wouldn't consider the people I hang around with those types of people. Not to say there's something wrong with that type of person, and not to say that that type of person one day might decide to buy Whitechapel. They might, but I, I like to believe that I'm a person that's going around the board buying stuff, negotiating with other people that bought stuff, losing money here and
mm.
there, building hotels, losing hotels, getting remortgaged, and then build myself back up. But never just I'm playing. I'm down to play. Even if I go bankrupt, I'm down to play. I'm not just here to exist and be just part of it. I just want to play. I want to play too. It's great. It's fun. It's and again to what you're saying. You know, Life is a game, in my opinion too. It is a game. It's not a high game, but it's a game that's to be played. And if you find out a way to play it in a way that works for you, because there's billions of ways how to play the game and win, then you have a happy life. Your life is great. If it's working for you, then just say this shit is working for me, and that's full stop. Put a full stop on that. Don't have to like revisit that. This is working great for me. There's my contentment, and I'm happy. So that's it.
That's true. That's true. I think it's just like choose the game you want to play. Don't play someone else's game.
Mm,
Don't let the game be forced upon you, right? And I think that's probably something that we could cover in a separate topic. But you know, there's likes of social media where like it's forced in your face, or TV when it's reality TV, and all of these sort of circles and halos are put on these characters in on the big screen. Don't let that be the game that you think that you're playing. Play your own game, and don't think of anything as competition. Enjoy your table.
agreed, bro. Totally agreed.
All right, so I think that's it. We're kind of over time. It's been a pleasure as always. Guys, if you haven't followed us on Instagram and Twitter, please check us out. Find us. We are there, Kaleidoscope Podcast on Instagram. We are all over it. So definitely tell your friends, share it, just broadcast it, whatever you can do to help us out. Thank you for listening this far. We appreciate you. Any last words?
No, I hope everyone has a great 2021, and yeah, keep following your dreams. That's it.